Hello everybody, this is Hollywood Joe from Hollywood's World of Sports, coming to you tonight with a special interview, an up-and-coming star in Michigan, rising up the ranks. His name is Derek Wolf. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing well, Joe. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it, man.
Not a problem. Now, this interview is going to be a little unique because of Derek's background and how he got into wrestling, and so you'll find that out a little bit later. But first off, I want to begin. What made you start getting into pro wrestling? Like, what are your first memories of watching it?
Oh gosh, the thing about pro wrestling is it's always been there for me. It's through thick and through thin. No matter what experiences I was going through in life, wrestling's just always been there. I can go home at night, I could watch it. It was comforting for me. It's always been there in my darkest times. So I just first remember actually turning to pro wrestling when I was just channel surfing in 6th grade. I happened to turn on Monday Night Raw, and I believe it was an episode where Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels were having a little bit of a feud. Actually, thinking about it now, they were setting up a match at WrestleMania 20. It was going to be a triple threat match. I think Stone Cold might have been acting as a general manager at the time. Yep. Triple threat between Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and someone else that WWE doesn't like to acknowledge these days. So,
yeah.
But it instantly had me hooked, and I was enthralled with it. And I went and had my tonsils out the next day. And back then, there was no WWE network. So if you wanted to watch a pay-per-view, you had to pay big money to do it. I think at the time it was like a normal pay-per-view was like $40, and if you wanted to WrestleMania, it was like 50 or 60. So I had my tonsils out and convinced my family to go ahead and get WrestleMania for me as like a recovery present. Yeah. Obviously, it was an expensive thing, so this wasn't going to be a monthly thing for us. Yeah. It was just a one and done. Yeah. So I watched WrestleMania 20. I convinced my family to watch it with me. Absolutely loved it. And next thing you know, I'm watching Monday Night Raw, SmackDown every night, and then it turned into, well, let's go ahead and get Backlash. And then it turned into, okay, let's go ahead and get, back then it was Judgment Day was next. Yeah. And then before you know it, I'm watching every pay-per-view and just paying the big money back then since there was no network. But that's kind of how it started for me.
Now, was WrestleMania 20 your first pay-per-view, like watching you first?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, and the Monday Night Raw going into WrestleMania 20 was my first like real experience with pro wrestling at all. Okay. Just loved it, turned it on, loved it. So.
It's interesting you say it was the first. I mean, I've been watching wrestling, since I was like 4, but I never got to watch a WrestleMania until WrestleMania 17, at least live. Okay. So I just find it interesting that because both those WrestleManias are really good from top to bottom. So I just kind of find out interesting.
Yeah. And, back then it was a little bit different. You had the Vince McMahon guys, so to speak, where, it was, you had your Brock Lesnar's, you had your Goldbergs, you had your Triple H. Everybody had a certain look about them. And obviously it's funny to see when you look back from, how much the wrestling business has evolved from then into where we are now, and the style of wrestling, and how, people like Finn Balor, Rey Mysterio, can certainly be successful in the business today. But, back then, I'm sure people like them, Mysterio, okay, but, they didn't have that Vince McMahon look. So it was just different times back then.
Yeah. Now, as you got older and kind of started to fall in love with pro wrestling, did you ever, take into the archives, in the 80s and early 90s at all?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I enjoyed what was on at the time. Yeah. What really hooked me, and honestly is kind of an inspiration for the path that I want to pave in the wrestling world, is the Evolution stable. Batista, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Triple H. They walked in like they owned the company, man. They were riding in limousines. They were wearing the best clothes. They had 2 girls on every shoulder. They would do their stuff in the ring. They would walk out with the championship belts, and then they would go party all night at the nightclubs. They lived that lifestyle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And for whatever reason, I really drew to that. Yeah. And I took that not just in the wrestling world, but how I wanted to live my life as I grew up and got older. And, I was going to go to college and be successful in business, and I did, and I wanted to live that lifestyle. And now as I move into the wrestling world, that's something that I look to do as well. but that's what really hooked me in. And to bring this back to your original question, Joe, I enjoyed watching what was on at the time.
Yeah.
I really didn't dig into the archives until I started talking, honestly, with my stepfather, who, and a couple friends who used to watch it in the 90s as they were growing up, and some of the 80s. And we started watching things. My buddy, his name is Matt, he really enjoys Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
He loves Razor Ramon. So we started watching some of the old Razor Ramon matches. Obviously, the classic ladder match with Shawn Michaels was a big one.
Yep.
Started watching the old Hulk Hogan matches. And as I started watching these, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I still personally preferred what was going on in the world today, or at that time, I should say, because this was back when I was in high school.
Yep.
But I really like to go back and watch those archived wrestling matches now, just to see the difference in wrestling styles that there was back then to how it was today, and how differently the wrestlers worked and how different they are in the ring. You know, today you can turn on WWE, you can turn on independent wrestling, and you'll see a lot of big moves, over-the-top moves, and that's great. That's great. But if you watch the stuff from the 80s, you know, a finish could be a DDT. There wasn't huge over-the-top moves, but the storytelling was just, it was second to none. It was immaculate and enthralling, and it was easy to get emotionally invested, and it still is. But it was just different times back then. So I appreciate the art of it going back to the 80s and 90s and just seeing how they work compared to today.
Is there anyone in the 80s, early 90s that stood out to you?
Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, just your I hate to say it, but kind of cliche answered names. Razor Ramon. Really for me, the ones that stand out for me are the ones that are either very successful, you know, your Ric Flairs, your Shawn Michaels, or the ones that have really enthralling characters. I fell in love with Razor Ramon, and you know, I still go with my friends and do the toothpick flicking thing. You know, so for me, it's either about the character, or it's about and their personality, or it's about their success in the business.
Okay. When did you like consciously make the decision that you wanted to get into the wrestling business?
Gosh, like I said, wrestling's always been there for me. It's always been a childhood dream. It's always been in the back of my mind. However, I was very motivated in high school to be successful in college, and I was. But I excelled in academics, but I also excelled on the football field. You know, was all-state football player, big offensive tackle. I was a big boy. And I had a lot of offers out of high school. I had an offer to play at Purdue. I had an offer to play at the Naval Academy. The catch with the Naval Academy was I had to play football and do the military thing. Which for me at the time I felt like was a little too much. And I was offered an Army ROTC scholarship to attend Arizona State University, which is what I ended up taking. And then I ended up walking on and playing football there as well, and doing the college thing. So I graduated from Arizona State, did some military stuff, eventually moved back to Michigan. When I moved back to Michigan, I got into business, and I started working for a Fortune 500 company as a kind of like a branch manager, district sales manager type thing, and managed a bunch of employees. And, you know, it paid really well, and I was very successful with it. However, I wasn't happy. I couldn't find happiness in life. The majority of the time I was there, I was single. It was just myself. And I was looking for fulfillment. And I always had the childhood dream of getting into professional wrestling. And the challenge that I had was that there was no pro wrestling schools or trainers in the Southwest Michigan area. I was actually living in St. Joseph, Michigan at the time. And there was nobody really nearby. Coldwater was the nearest one, which was a heck of a drive for me. It did get to the point where I reached out to Merrick Brave and Colby, famously known as Seth Rollins, because they own a school called the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, which is in Davenport, Iowa. Reached out to them and was accepted to their school, and was getting ready to go there, pay the deposit and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, I had a personal life situation that financially I just couldn't do it. And I couldn't uproot and just go to Davenport. So went through some personal life shakeups, ended up moving from St. Joseph to Grand Rapids. It was closer for work. I didn't have anything holding me there. Moved to Grand Rapids, was still doing the business thing, still couldn't find happiness in life, still was single, would attend shows in Grand Rapids as they would come. Loved it as a fan. Actually, what kind of led me to pro wrestling and myself being involved in it, I went as a fan early to a show one time. And I'm sure this is what you were going to lead into. Yes. Do you want to ask anything, or do you want me to just lead into it?
You know, it's interesting because, geez, it's probably...
Let's get my wolf mask out of the way here.
Yeah, it's all right. How long has it been? It's been, what, maybe 4 years now since you and I first met? Somewhere around there, 3-4 years?
Yeah, because, I mean, I met you at a show, and then obviously we just met. And then however long went by before WWE came back. So I would say about 4 years.
Yeah, so basically the story is if you're familiar with the Grand Rapids area... Van Andel Arena has this back lot, like the loading lot. And then there's a gate around it. A lot of us fans used to hang around that gate, wait for the superstars to come in. No offense, but I've generally found most of the fans very annoying, except one. Derek was always kind of quiet, just kind of kept to himself. I'm like, you know, I saw he had a shirt on from the company that he was working for, and I actually knew someone from that company.
Just to clarify, that's my not professional wrestling company that I was working for. Yeah, my real job.
Yes,
if you want to call
his real job. Yes, and so me and him just got to talking, just randomly started a conversation, and as time went on, we just talked more when we went at the arena, and this last time that we were both down there together. Kind of funny story. You had to run home, and I got to hold on to your belts.
I forgot about that.
I'm like, this guy barely even knows me, and he's trusting me with $400 or $500.
I forgot about that.
$400, $500.
We had talked a couple times. I knew how to find, like Joe said originally. We had one of my coworkers. Joe happened to know, so I would know how to find him if for whatever reason he decided to run off with my belt. But for whatever reason, I had to scoot home. At the time, I lived right next to the Van Andel Arena. I mean, it literally it wasn't even 20 feet away in a high-rise apartment. So I trusted him for a minute while I stepped back home.
But I believe it was that conversation you asked me if I knew anybody that was training people. Or maybe the conversation before. Was one of the two, because I remember I was handing out flyers to another wrestling promotion here in Grand Rapids.
I do remember that.
And that's how you started talking to me. I was like, do you know anybody that can train me?
Yep.
And I thought about it, put any, bias, judgments, whatever aside. I was like, this is the guy you need to see. This is the guy who you need to talk to. That's who I told you. What are your first impressions?
And the rest was history.
and so I guess that leads me into my next question. What was your first impressions of Josh Raymond?
So, for those of you who don't know, Joe told me the name of Josh, who made his name in the professional wrestling world, in the independent wrestling scene, and is well respected within that. I reached out to him directly on Facebook because he wasn't running a school. There's schools, around the state of Michigan, but again, they're too far away from Grand Rapids to be able to commute to. Or they're not too far away to be able to commute to, but they were for me in my life situation where I had a job Monday through Friday and had commitments. So it was just a little too much. So I did reach out to Josh, and he explained to me that he does train, and he only trains a small number of students at the same time. Josh was very respectful to me. He wanted to sit down with me and have a conversation before we jumped into any kind of training or anything like that. Yep. And as I said, very respectful. We had a professional conversation. He asked me the same questions you kind of asked leading into the interview about why I love pro wrestling, what made me want to get into it, what I think I could bring to the business, things of that nature. And from there, we just kind of took off and started training. But to kind of answer your question here, my first impressions of Josh, professional. He was a family man, still is a family man. He was there with his kids. I can tell he loves his family with his whole heart. Yep. And overall, to me, a good guy. So someone I trusted and could tell that he really knew what he was doing and would want to train with and get into the business with. So,
and for all you fools out there that don't know who Josh Raymond is, he was also in Ring of Honor at one point. Also did Wrestling Society X. If you can't find Josh Raymond on YouTube, you can also look him up as Josh Abercrombie, which he formerly went by as well.
Yep.
I suggest you check out his work, because obviously once you see how great his work is, you can probably imagine that he puts a lot of dedication into training his students. And so I guess I mean, what I want to ask next is like, what has like his training been like with you? Like, I mean, like, what does he strive for you to accomplish?
He's very thorough. Okay. Thorough is the best word that I could think of to describe Josh in the way that he trains. He wants to make sure that his students understand all aspects of the business, of the wrestling business. He wants to make sure that if there's something that can happen in that ring, he knows, he teaches his students how to deal with those situations, and that they can perform the way that they need to. Obviously, with certain body types, certain people can do, certain specific type of moves that others can't, or just don't have the ability to. So there's restrictions there. But if he thinks you have the ability to do something, he'll make sure that you're trained and you know how to do it. He wants to be fully confident in a student before they step in a ring at a show. Yep. He's not going to put you in a match unless he feels like you are able to do so, and also give a good representation of himself as a coach too. Okay,
so that's good.
Yeah.
You had mentioned Black and Brave earlier about when you talking about your story of wanting to get trained. I know you recently went down there with Josh.
Yep.
And so I got to ask you, like, what did that feel like for you, knowing that you kind of wanted to go there, didn't work out? Was that kind of like a come full circle type of feeling for you?
It was. Like you said, that's where I wanted to be. That's how I thought I was going to break into the business at the time. Obviously, it didn't work out, but I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, that there's a plan. And although Black and Brave wasn't how I got trained and broke into the business, I firmly believe that the training that I received from Josh Raymond is equivalent, if not, not to knock Black and Brave or anything, but it's just as good as the training that Black and Brave would have provided as well. Josh's experiences, his knowledge of the business, and just the way that he coaches makes sure that his students are ready before they step in the ring. He would rather have you train for a year, 2 years before you step in a ring than just, rush you through in 3 months and put you in. But to go back to your question, it did feel like it came back full circle, and it was fun to be there with my trainer and also see the trainers that were at Black and Brave at the time. Merrick Brave is their main trainer. Shane Hollister is there as well as Matt Mayday and a guy named Shug. Same person, that's his work name. Wrestling name, I should say. But it was fun. It was a weekend-long trip. We were there from Friday through Sunday. Okay. Got to train with his students. Josh put on a seminar there, so I was able to attend the seminar with Josh and the Black and Brave kids as well. Learn some more. Learn from what the people in Iowa had to teach as well. And then I went on a show. Was able to work a show with some of their students as well. Where unfortunately I wasn't able to pull the victory out. But had a good little match, gained some great experience, was tossed into the ring steps by my opponent, who was very good. His name is Johnny Wisdom.
Okay.
And I look forward to having another match with him again soon and getting some retribution there. So
good.
We'll see how that works out.
Good. And another recent experience you had, and one that definitely caught my attention because of the rich history of it, IWA-MidSouth.
Yes. I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to take an opportunity this past week, last Thursday, so a little less than a week ago actually, to head down to Jeffersonville, Indiana, and work at an IWA-MidSouth show at the arena. It was the very first show that IWA-MidSouth and Ian Rotten was running this year. I went down, honestly, not knowing if I was even going to be on the card.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got there, I met Ian right away. He put me in the first match, had a good little match. I wrestled a gentleman by the name of Akira. was able to get the fans warmed up, set the tone for the show, and pull out a victory there as well. So that was a very fun and humbling experience. That's actually both Black and Brave and IWA-MidSouth were two of my goals that as I broke into the wrestling business were places that I wanted to either visit or work at or both. And I'm very fortunate to be able to meet both of those goals so early on in my very young career. So I feel very fortunate to be a part of that and honored as well.
And, you know, for me as, you know, being in a unique position of being somewhat of a fan and covering the business, I find the IWA-MidSouth thing so fascinating because one of my all-time favorite matches as a fan was a triple threat match between Mysterio, Guerrero, and CM Punk. And so to me, you know, IWA has had a habit of putting people on the map and using the right veterans to get new guys over. So when you told me you were headed down to IWA, I'm like, man, that's big. That is very big.
Again, I was very excited to be a part of it. I was honored to be a part of it. As Joe said, there's a lot of history there. CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Daniel Bryan, Tyler Black, now very well known as Seth Rollins, Josh Raymond, just to name a few of the many names that all got their start there, and you can now see on TV almost every week. So very humbling and very honored to be a part of it.
Now you got some big things coming up.
I sure do.
Within the next few weeks here, in the next couple of months. First thing I want to talk to you about, and this is something you know from speaking to me personally that I've been passionate about, is having pro wrestling in Grand Rapids.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about WWE SmackDown or, you know, WWE Monday Night Raw, which is coming soon. I'm talking about independent wrestling. And Grand Rapids has seen its fair share of indie promotions, whether they be good or bad. Not going to knock any of them because it's just not the way I do business. But I personally have always wanted a consistent pro wrestling product here in Grand Rapids.
Likewise.
It's too big of a market not to be.
Absolutely.
You have some insight on pro wrestling coming back to Grand Rapids on the independent level. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I heard from a little birdie that there is looking to be a show coming up on March 2nd. At right downtown Grand Rapids. Actually, not only is it, you know, just in the suburb, but it's right downtown. At the Grand Rapids Masonic Temple. And for anybody who doesn't know, the Grand Rapids Masonic Temple has a lot of history. It's been here for a long time, early 1900s. It's a 8 or 9 story building right downtown off of Fulton, which is the main street in downtown GR. And yeah, we're going to be running a show in their ballroom again March 2nd. Independence Pro Wrestling is the name of the promotion that's going to be running there. I'm going to be a part of the show. I know Josh Raymond's going to be a part of the show. I don't want to say any other names. I kind of give too much away.
No, we got to look for surprises.
Give too much away, but you know, I'm not, depending on when this video gets posted online, the flyer might be out and you might be able to see who's going to be out there. But we got some surprises up our sleeve. We're expecting to really draw a big house. A lot of people there, and like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. Grand Rapids has been really missing a consistent wrestling promotion in the past couple of years.
Agreed.
There has been promotions in the past that have done very, very well here. Some good, some not so good. They're leaving a bad taste in the wrestling world's mouth. But there have been some really good ones. And since there have been good ones in the past, that shows that there is opportunity to run in the Grand Rapids market and be successful with it. And, you know, Independence Pro Wrestling is something that I think is looking to capitalize on that. And we're very fortunate to have a venue downtown Grand Rapids, right in the heart of everything. So when the show is over, people can walk to the bars and the clubs and have a good time and continue to have a good time. But, you know, just be right in the hub of everything and take advantage of that. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, we got some tricks up our sleeve, so we don't want to give too much away. But, yeah, it should be an exciting time.
Okay, well, and the final thing I want to talk to you about tonight is
yes, sir.
Something I've been following quite frequently on Facebook, social media, XICW Proving Ground.
Yes.
You are getting set to be a part of, I think it is the 6th season.
Yep, that's correct.
XICW Proving Ground. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm really excited. Really excited, really honored to be a part of it. I know many wrestlers in the state of Michigan and all around the Midwest have gotten their start or started early on in their careers with XICW and the Proving Ground show that they run. I was taking a look at some of the other names, the names of other wrestlers that happen to be on this season. And while I'm very excited to be a part of it, I'm really excited for this particular season because, in my honest opinion, as far as raw talent goes, I have goosebumps just talking about it, Joe.
Yeah.
There's, I think there's so much potential in the 8 rookies that are going to be a part of this season, and it sucks that there can only be one person that comes out on top because the potential that's here amongst all 8 of us is, it's big. And like I said, I'm just excited and honored to be a part of it. I'm sorry for the 7 other rookies because, you know, Derek Wolf settles for nothing less than success. So I'm going to be going all the way and winning. But, you know, they are still very talented individuals, and it's unfortunately that they can't take home the championship like I can. But
that's what I was going to be. What message does Derek Wolf have for his 7 competitors?
Yeah, you know, I just told you, man, like I said, nothing less than success. I don't settle. When I'm a part of something, I'm the kind of person who jumps all in. I commit myself to it, and I give as much effort as I possibly can to make sure that I come out on top. I was successful in college. I was successful in my college football career. I was successful in martial arts. For those of you who don't know, I have a black belt in Taekwondo. I do have a martial art background that I bring to my wrestling style. As you know, I'm a big guy. I weigh 285, right between 6'3", 6'4", so I kind of have that powerhouse type style, but I like to incorporate a lot of martial art kicks into it. So I plan on bringing what I've learned in my past experiences in college, in football, in the Army, in martial arts, in the business world. There's a lot of strong, what's the word I'm looking for, assets of knowledge that I've gained from all of this, that I look to bring into this wrestling world and use it to make sure that I come out on top in Proving Ground. And not only in Proving Ground, but in the wrestling world as well. Yeah. So, and
for those of you in the Detroit area, check out XICW. It's a very, very historical promotion. It's, I think, 3 generations now.
Yep.
The Monroes.
That's correct.
Monroes have been doing it for years and do it well, I might add. I look forward to seeing what happens at Proving Ground.
I do too. I mean, I can already tell you what's going to happen, but I certainly am excited to see my victory. Yes.
I'm hoping we can catch up again, maybe partway through, maybe after, and get your thoughts.
Celebrate my win.
Celebrate your win. Get your thoughts on the other competitors, and you know, things that you learned, and you know, just see how things have been progressing there, and even other promotions you're going to be at throughout the year.
Yeah, I plan to, you know, I'm really excited to be a part of Proving Ground in XICW, but I'm also excited for other opportunities that are coming up this year. My first show that I worked in 2019 was IWA-MidSouth. As we stated earlier, really honored to be a part of that. But if that's how I'm starting off my year, I can't even imagine to see what else is going to come. There are a couple other shows in the books, and I'm just looking forward to see what happens.
Heck yeah, man. I personally want to thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity tonight, man. I appreciate that.
I've been trying to get you for a while.
I know, it's been tough.
I know some big things have been going on for you, and some big things are going to be going on this year. And like I said, from a personal standpoint, I'm looking forward to see how things progress and see how things do. And like I'm sure we're going to be revisiting again and talking about Proving Ground and talking about future Grand Rapids shows. And
talking about my victory.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Exactly.
I know I got to keep reminding myself you're going to wind up winning the whole thing.
That's right.
I mean, I kind of feel bad for the other stuff.
I do too, man. Like I said, there's some talent there, you know. Some people that I've heard of, some people that I haven't heard of. But the ones that I haven't, you know, I saw kind of the bio that was posted on the XICW website, and I've seen their pictures, and they have the look, and they have the from what it sounds like in the biography, the ability to go a long way. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, this has been Derek Wolf. I'm Hollywood Joe from Hollywood's World of Sports, reminding you as always, controversy doesn't come without criticism.
That's right.